What defines the Fijian man? What defines an indigenous Fijian man? Should it always be about where I'm from, or where my father is from, or where my mother is from? Or could it be a little bit more different? Could it be something creative? Possibly, could it be about my nice chocolatey skin, perhaps? Or could it be about my beard? Or maybe, could it be about my physical frame? Or as my cousin usually reminds me, Jope, you don't have a physical frame. You have a soup pack of a frame, no six pack. Or could it be about my kava drinking skills? Because if I could outdrink my own cousin, I could be a different kind of a Fijian man. Possibly a kava drinking Superman. Yeah, that was me a couple of weeks ago, trying to outdrink another friend. Let's just say it didn't end so well. But more to it, this is a question that I've often thought about, and I'll never forget, because what makes or molds this so-called Fijian man? And my late grandfather, and I'd like to think he has a Morgan Freeman-like voice, would always tell me, "Nungiada, navonua kena lotu," which means my namesake, its religion and culture. Growing up in an indigenous conservative Fijian family, you start to realize that your life is governed, if not ultimately guided, by these two pillars of religion and culture. And running through these two pillars is a common thread of do's and don'ts. So you'd have small things like, and a lot of indigenous Fijians probably would hear this, if you're a boy, you'd be told, "You're gonna tangani," you're a boy, "You're gonna takabango," you'll do this, "You're gonna lewango." You'll have ownership or control and authority over this. If you are a girl, you'd possibly be told, "You're a girl, you're gonna elewa, you're gonna wasanga, you'll have to cook, you're gonna masi-masi, you'll have to clean, and you have to be ready to listen. You're gonna warorongo." A lot of these things we, in one way or the other, would have heard either from home or from our close loved ones. But within this, you also start to notice that realistically, the Fijian man is something of a king in his own kingdom. And we need not look any further than in Fijian social functions, as I'm sure the indigenous Fijian women here would know very well. As a Fijian man, I'll be called to eat first. As a Fijian man, I can drink as much kava as I want. I can talk nonsense with my peers hours on end. No one can stop me. And of course, when I sleep, no one is to disturb me. And I'm guilty of that as well. But more to it, when I speak, no one is to interrupt me. Not even the men that are younger than me. My power and privilege is unparalleled, especially when compared to the women in our own society. But interestingly, out of all these particular aspects, is the fact that, for me, part of what I understand of the Fijian man was imparted by a man that my late mother fell in love with. A man who biologically is my father, of course, but emotionally and psychologically is a stranger to me. And if you just hold on, bear with me for a few minutes, you'll understand how and why I feel this way. Perhaps the most significant symbolism of the Fijian man is his ability to evade responsibility and accountability for his own actions. This trail of thought was born out of years of physical abuse and violence that my mother had to endure in the hands of the man that has come to define for me what the abuse of privilege and power of the Fijian man can do, what it can do to a loving wife, what it can do to innocent children, what it can do to a family, and worst of all, what it can do to a beautiful country like our own. Strewn with injuries, my own mother would commit herself to doing things better next time, as she believed it was her duty to become the quintessential Fijian woman. Out of frustration as a child, I would question her, why? Why are we putting ourselves through this? And most of all, why are you putting yourself through this? And her response was almost always automated. programmed all the time, where she would respond, "Naluvengu, navosota, navosota, anongoyalela," which means, "My son, it's my sacrifice, my marriage vows." At that point, and even now, what she believed was her duty, was her vow, I still see as submission to torture. But what's even more interesting is how my mother would find comfort in what she felt was religious texts that would continuously guide her. Texts like Ephesians 5:22-24, "Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ." And towards the end, as you can see there, wives should always submit in everything to their husbands. And if she forgot, she'd always have various others like 1 Timothy 2:11-12, "Let a woman learn quietly with all submissiveness. She is to remain quiet." Let me just let that linger for a while before any of the women in the audience throw something at me. But like clockwork, like every other morning, my mother would wake up early, whether it was a good day and she had the most beautiful smile on her face, or whether it was a bad day, she had broken bones and almost a swollen and unrecognizable face. This woman would obligate me to pray with her as she begged her God to change the man that she married, to change the man that she adored the most, the man that she loved the most, the love of her life, but was a stranger to me. Out of all these things, I began to realize that such was the power of the Fijian man. He was so powerful that his privilege cannot be questioned, and he could not even be accountable to his own religion. For instance, in 1 Peter 3:7, "Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman, since they are your heirs, they are heirs with you in the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered." What's interesting about this is the fact that almost often, or more often than not, even in indigenous families, you never get to hear emphasis on this particular verse. It's always everything else but this. And you'd wonder why we're in this particular position. But more to it, we start to realize that the most insignificant of derisive remarks, like "stop being a girl, only girls cry," or the typical indigenous Fijian saying that most people have when in-laws are not acting right, "lewa chukno chimu," which means have control over your wife. And it usually implies having to do that with physical force. These things not only skew our understanding of relationships, but makes it far worse. It makes it far worse in the sense that it creates a superiority complex for the Fijian man that, when coupled with the most lethal of combinations, like alcohol abuse, and of course pure ignorance or just disrespect, can prove fatal. And a lot of this continues every day. Now, what's interesting about this is that we come to a point where we think, what is wrong with all of this? How is this normal? This is not normal. But in a typical society that we live in, it becomes very, very accepted. That brings me to what I am now told that I am. I'm an eye short of an Apple product, I presume. Yes. So we got iPod and, yeah. Depending on which scholar you talk to, they can say, well, it's not itoke, it's, toke. Fine. But what's interesting about this is that I'm told that I'm an itoke, and the word, or a similar word, of course, is connected to taukena, which makes me often wonder, what exactly am I supposed to own? Is it always supposed to be about land? Is it supposed to be power? Is it supposed to be money? Or could we make it something much more meaningful, something much more deeper than that? The new narrative, the new Fijian man. So what is this man? Who is this man? Of course, he doesn't exist as a human being, but the new Fijian man is a man that can use his power and privilege to not only see the status quo as what it is, but also help question and change it. Having to do this would allow us to ask the most basic, the most simplest of questions that leads us to realize it's the smallest things that we do that can make the biggest difference. Like, for instance, why is it that we have to be consistently obsessed by what women and girls do. It's as if they're always doing something wrong. Why do we have to always be obsessed over what women and girls are wearing? It's almost as if they're the only group of people on earth wearing clothes. Why is it that we always have to be continuously obsessed over where they are? It's as if they're always at the wrong place at the wrong time. Not once would we question ourselves over why is it that we are consistently obsessed over a group of people. And most of all, not questioning ourselves over why not let us take into account of what we've done and how we use or abuse our own power and privilege. And most of all, can we start to rethink how we treat women? For me, I'm not perfect, of course. I'm very much flawed, like every other human being on earth. But there are times when I look at these pictures and I realize that it is up to every individual of what we do. So for me, it's that devoted wife, that elder sister to my aunts, that strict disciplinarian and teacher, and the queen of my heart as she was, my late mother, Akanisi Maramewe. When this woman died, like every loved guardian, this woman took a huge part of my soul. But it is from within this vacant space of my soul lies this question, lies this yearning, that it's about time that we rethink the Fijian man, Vinata.